And welcome back to the show. We're continuing our conversation about the Pope's address to Congress this morning, where not only did the Pope call for protecting life, he also brought up abolishing the death penalty.
This conviction has led me from the beginning of my ministry to advocate at different levels the global abolition of the death penalty. I am convinced that this way is the best, since every life is sacred. Every human person is endowed with unalienable dignity, and society can only benefit from the rehabilitation of those convicted of crimes.
His Holiness went on to say he supports a renewed push by American bishops to call for the end of the death penalty, an interesting issue, as many on the left are pro-choice and anti-death penalty, while most on the right have an opposite view. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia waded into the death penalty debate during a college speech, saying he, quote, wouldn't be surprised if the court ruled it unconstitutional, despite his belief that the Constitution allows for it with the establishment of protections like a fair trial. Okay, let's bring back Mike Kelly once again, the congressman from Pennsylvania. And I know Rick is like a giddy schoolchild right now wanting to talk to you. Like,
yes, that's it. I just want him to buy lunch. Hey, Mike, you know, we had an interesting conversation during the break where you were pointing out just how peaceful Washington, D.C. is today. And I think that's a fascinating comment. You know, would you agree that when it comes to somebody like the Pope, somebody of that stature and spiritual stature, that we can avoid the politics? There's so many liberals who always want to pile on the Pope because he sees something differently. Now there's some conservatives. Can't we just skip the politics and say that this is a spiritual man? We don't have to judge his politics.
Well, let's hope we go that way. But in this town, it's always politics above policy. You know that. So. Hard to avoid that in Washington.
We should be able to with him.
Congressman Brad Hirschfield, I want to kind of continue the question along those lines about the problems we have in Washington. I agree with you. I think that His Holiness did something quite remarkable. He came to a town that's defined by polarization, and he helped people rise above it. He did it, it seems to me, with three things. He really believes in the dignity of all people, even when they disagree with him. He has genuine curiosity about the views he doesn't agree with. And he has real humility about the views he does, even as he is deeply committed to his own tradition and its conclusions. What do you think we can do to sustain that feeling you described before the break and that approach here in Washington, even after the Holy Father returns home?
Well, I think that the message that we heard today is one that you can hear day after day after day and not get bored with or turn away from. And a lot in life, as everything else, repetition is the key to it. Whether it's parenting or teaching or coaching, it's repetition. So I think that you read that over and over again, you hear the Pope's message, and you see how that does affect you, and especially in your role here in Washington, D.C. as a legislator, or more importantly, as a representative of the people back home that sent you. I think it's easy if you can keep your mind clear from that and not get yourself so down one road that you can't possibly come back and say, you know, I had a different kind of view of it now after I looked farther into it. Too many people say, oh, that's flip-flopping. I've always thought that there's an evolution that takes place in all of us. I know that where I am today is a lot different than when I started off, and that's just because of interaction, being around people.
Now, Congressman, are you going to follow him up 95 on the Excella to your home state of Pennsylvania and see the Pope this Sunday in Philadelphia as well?
No, I think that's going to be too strenuous. I don't know how they're going to handle the logistics of it up there. I would just say that the last 2 days that I spent here, these 48 hours, have been critical, and critical not just to myself, but to almost every single person I've talked to was lifted by the Pope's remarks. And I don't say that in any way to be cute or playing to something. I'm talking about from our position as human beings. If we don't soon wake up to where we are, and more importantly, and Rick and I talk about this all the time, the potential for this country, for this nation, is almost limitless, but it's going to take strong leadership and always following that compass that points true north. If you can do that, your chances of actually arriving at the destination you wanted to are a lot better.
Well, you're a genuine guy, Mike. No one here thinks you're playing to any kind of crowd, so we certainly appreciate you joining us. And hopefully the Pope, when he does get to Philadelphia, can bless the Eagles, because things are going horribly right now.
They may actually need more than the Pope's blessing. It's that bad.
That's true. You might need God himself to come down and say, my God, you scored 3 points against the Cowboys.
Mike, see you soon, buddy.
Okay, Rick, thanks so much. Hey, God bless everybody. Thanks for what you're doing. It's critical.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Appreciate it.
He's a great guy.
He's tremendous, and here you are, a Democrat, here he is
see,
a
but
Republican, and you showed that the two sides can get along over alcohol.
People don't, yeah, definitely we can do that. People don't understand this. I don't care what your policies are as long as you've thought them through and your intentions are right. Mike has good intentions. He wants what's best for the country. We may not agree on every solution, but I know where his heart and his head are at.
Okay, Catholic schoolgirl, chime in.
Don't you have to be open to change? I mean, I think that's one of the things that you mentioned that you saw today, and that's one of the things that Mike also mentioned, that he's not going to, it's not going to be accused of flip-flopping just because he's willing to evolve.
Might change.
And that evolution or change or growth or whatever you want to call it has to be practiced by everyone. It's very easy to think the opposition needs to change. That's just narcissism. How come they ain't more like us?
Right.
The openness to change is measured not by how much the other side changes, is how much change we ourselves are open to, with His Holiness's caveat that it remain rooted in your tradition and you have integrity. But the measure of integrity is not how little you'll change, it's how much you can change without losing who you are.
Wow, you should think about becoming a rabbi. That was great the way you delivered that. It was so uplifting. Interesting. Anyway, as the Pope's historic visit to the United States continues to dominate the headlines, more and more Americans are asking, who is Pope Francis? Well, as always, Newsmax, we got you covered. Learn more about Pope Francis and his humble rise to the Vatican in the book, Francis, A Pope for Our Time. Get this special offer right now at newsmax.com/pope or call 1-800-203-7047. Coming up, more on the Pope's historic address. That's later in the show, but up next we have the latest between Donald Trump, Fox News, and the war that will never end.